About half of all people today that are approaching 65 are going to make the decision to go on Medicare. But they're oftentimes not sure exactly what they should do about taking their Social Security benefits. And so there's actually 5 crucial questions that we'll be covering in this video so that you'll know the answer to the question whether or not you should start Medicare and Social Security at the same time. Okay, let's begin the video by looking at critical question number 1 of these 5 questions. That is this: are you fully retired? Meaning, do you have any working wages, W-2 income, commission income, 1099 income due from work? And you answer the question, yes, I am fully retired, then it may be in your best interest to go ahead and start Medicare and Social Security at the same time. All right, and the reason for that is because if you're fully retired and you decide to start Medicare and Social Security at 65, you're not subject to what we call the earnings test. Earnings test. Now, anyone who takes their Social Security benefits at their full retirement age would never be subject to the earnings test. The earnings test goes away at full retirement age. But if I take my Social Security benefits before my full retirement age, then I can only make so much in working wages. So here we say we have none of them, so we're not subject at all to the earnings test. Now, for the sake of this video, what I'm going to do is I want to show you an example of someone. Let's say that someone is turning 65 today. That meant that their birthday was 3/27/1960. So I'm shooting this video March 27, 2025. And today they celebrated their 65th birthday. All right. And so what happened is this person would have been eligible to start their Social Security at age 62. So they actually could have started 3/1/2022. All right. They did. But let's say they didn't, but they decided to start their Medicare this month, which would have been 3/1/2025, because now they're 65, and they decide to go ahead and start their Social Security at the same time, at 65. So they could have started Social Security at 62, but they didn't. They decided to start it at 65. But when all of these years, we're subject to the earnings test if we're going to keep working. Again, if we're fully retired, we don't have to worry about it whatsoever. Okay, so I want to cover real quickly full retirement ages to make sure everyone's clear as to how this works. Anyone born between 1943 and 1954, 1943 and 1954 will have a full retirement age of 66 and 0 months. But after 1954, what the government did, they started adding to everyone's full retirement age 2 months. Okay, and they did this all the way up until 1960 birthdays. And like in our example. And so what we have here, 1955 birth dates, it was 66 plus 2 months. They added 2 months. 1956, they added 4 months. 1957, they added 6. 1958, they added 8. 1959, they added 10. But anyone born 1960 thereafter would have a full retirement age of 67. All right, so that's what I'm using for the purpose of my illustration in this video. Someone who is born 1960 thereafter has a full retirement age of 67, but they made the decision to go ahead and take their Social Security 2 years early at 65. So anytime that we take our benefits early, there's 2 consequences. Number 1, we take less money. I'll show you a chart on that here in just a minute. 6% less each year. And if we keep working, we're going to be subject to the earnings test. Now, clearly in our first question, we're saying we're no longer working, so we don't have to worry at all about the earnings test. So if I'm not working, I don't worry about it. Or if I hit my full retirement age, no earnings test. All right. But that brings us then to the second critical question, and that is this: if you're still working, are your wages less than $23,400? Because in my example, someone with this date of birth from 3/1, now watch this, 3/1/2022, this is when they were first eligible for Social Security at 62, up until December of the year prior to turning to full retirement age. So we know in this example, someone's full retirement age would have been when they hit 67. So that would have been 3/1/2027. Okay, 3/1/2027. So we're subject to the earnings test from the 62 up until December of this year here. So that would be all the way from 3/1/2022 to December of 2026. okay, 2026. And then the year I turn full retirement age, my earnings test increases. So the year I turn in this example would have been 1/1 of 2027 all the way through 2/1, right? Why of 2027? Because once I hit my full retirement age, in this example, 3/1/2027, I don't have an earnings test, but I'm subject to the earnings test all the way until I hit my full retirement age, month, and year. All right, so the difference is these first few years, that earnings test is very low. It is $23,400 maximum. So if I make money above that, so that's what I'm saying, if you're still working or your wage is less than that, again, we don't have to worry about it. But if they're going to be above that, then I have a problem. All right, and so what happens? These months here, from when I'm first eligible to the December before I hit full retirement age, I can only make $23,400. And then what happens this year here, right before I hit my exact full retirement age month, this number goes up substantially. Right now, it's $62,160 that you can make. Okay, and so for those 2 months, I could have made that much money. I mean, over 30 grand a month, and I still would not have an impact upon my Social Security check. But again, once I hit full retirement age, earnings test goes away. So that's why I'm asking you critical question number 2. If you are still working, it may be fine as long as those wages are less than $23,400. Because any money that I make above the $23,400, what happens for every $2 I make above that amount, they take $1 out of my Social Security check. All right, so let's keep it real simple. Let's say that my Social Security benefit is $2,000 a month, and I make $12,000 above that. So if I were to add $12,000 to that, and my income then is $35,400, I'm above 12 grand. So for every $2 I make above the 12,000, they take $1 out of my Social Security benefit. So if I'm above 12, they're going to withhold $6,000 of Social Security checks. So if I'm getting $2,000 a month, they're going to withhold a full 3 months of checks, and then they'll turn on my Social Security benefit. Why? Because I was subject to the earnings test. Now again, once I hit my full retirement age, month and year, I can make as much as I want. I have no earnings test whatsoever. But if I take my Social Security benefits before that, now I have to be concerned about that limit. I want to stay below that limit. All right, so that is question number 2. If you work, how much are you making? And let's see the impact that's going to have upon your Social Security benefits. Hey, if you found this video helpful and you want to see more Medicare information just like it, then go below, right below the video, and you can give us a thumbs up as well as subscribe to our channel. And every time I put a new video, which is about 2 every week, you'll be notified of that video, and others just like you who need this vital information will get it as well. All right, that brings us then to critical question number 3. And that is this: is the reduced Social Security cash flow crucial to your budget? Now, first off, I want to deal with a couple terms. So when I say reduced benefit, what I mean by that is if we get to our full retirement age, we get what we call our primary insurance amount, which is our lifetime's earnings that are inflated up until age 60. And then all of our wages are discounted as real dollars, but we get that total lifetime earnings divided by 420 months. That gives us what we call our average index monthly earnings. So whatever that amount is applied, we apply some bin points to that, which then determines what our Social Security check is going to be at full retirement age, and they call that your primary insurance amount. That's what you get, in my example, at 67. But if I decide to take it 65, whatever that amount is, I'm going to lose 12% because I lose 6% every year. So if someone starts their Social Security benefit at age 67, there is no reduction. But every year that I take early, I am going to lose 6%. So I take early 1 year, it's 6%, 2 years, 12%, 3 years, 18%, 4 years, 24%. And then if I took as early as 62, the earliest I could take, I've actually lost a full 30% of my retirement benefit. So when I talk about is that reduced amount, in my example from 67 to 65, I have lost 12%. Is that 12% reduction, that amount, that net check, is that amount of money going to be crucial to your budget? Meaning, do you really have to have it? Or do you have other sources of income that you can draw from, investments or rental property or whatever, where you can continue to delay taking Social Security? But if you say to me with this question, yes, it is crucial to my budget, then again, it's probably wise to go ahead and start taking your Social Security. Even though we know it's a reduced benefit, if you need the cash flow, then I think it's wise to take that. All right? And so let's just give you a couple quick examples about a reduced benefit and how this works. Okay, now we set our full retirement age as 67. Again, we have no earnings test to contend with, and we have no reduction in benefit. So my first example would be someone who makes $2,000, and that's their primary insurance amount. Primary insurance amount. There's no reduction whatsoever. They waited to age 67, they got $2,000. But if this cash flow is crucial to their budget and they decide they want to go ahead and take it 65, they're going to lose 12%. So instead of that check being $2,000, it's going to be $1,760. So that benefit was reduced $240 a month. Now, if that's crucial to their budget, they may say, hey, I'm fine with the $1,760. I need the money, and that's fine. Now, there are people that make more than that. Okay, let's say your check was $2,500 primary insurance amount, again at 67, but you decided to take 2 years early. What's going to happen? You're going to lose about $300 a month out of that check. If your benefit was $3,000 a month, there's some even higher than that. Your benefit would be that at full retirement age. You take early, that 12% is going to cost you $360 on a monthly basis. But again, regardless of where you're going to be, if it's crucial for your budget, it may be fine to go ahead and take Social Security early. All right, that brings us then to the fourth question, and that is this: are you comfortable with the break-even date? Okay, so what do I mean by the break-even date and you being comfortable with that date? Let me explain. So let's suppose that someone does decide they're going to take their Social Security at 65, 2 years early. We know they took reduced benefit. But on the upside of that is they had $1,760 a month for 24 months directly deposited into their checking account or their savings account. So we have $1,760 a month that we got, and we got that money for 24 months. And so what happened is we actually had deposited into our account $42,240 because we decided to take early instead of delaying until our full retirement age. So we got $42,240 in the bank. But what happened is we had to take $240 less to do that. So we take that $240 into the $42,000. And that shows us exactly what our break-even point is. And that equals actually 176 months. Okay? And we take that divided by 12, and that's going to be 14 2/3 years. So that's 14 years and 9 months. So let's keep it simple. Let's just round up to 15 years. And here's what that means. It means that 15 years, we take 15 years and we add it to here. So that means that if I live to be beyond 82 years old, then I am now cost myself in the future $240 a month. That's the break even. The break even at this point would be right at 82 years of age, just a couple months shy of that. So if someone passed away prior to that, hey, that would have been a good decision. If they pass away after that, then of course their check could have been larger. But of course, it's also critical, did they need that money for these almost 15 years? And so the whole point is there's always a break-even point. When does it cost you to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take early? And for this scenario, it's going to be 82 years. So let's look at the others real quickly as well. So in this example, someone that has a higher benefit, again, I think it's going to be very similar. Let's look at it. So we took $2,200 instead of $2,500, so it cost us $300. But we had that $2,200 in the bank every month for 24 months. And so we had $52,800 deposited into our checking account. It cost us $300 for that. And so we're going to take that number in there. And that gives us 176 months, identical, of course. And so again, we have 14.67 years. And so you can see the math is all the same. So in every one of these situations, here's what happens. If I live to be beyond 82 years old, regardless of what my Social Security benefit is going to be, we know then it actually costs me to take that. But again, if you need the money, you need the money. But if we don't need the money, then it's wise to go ahead and to delay. If there's longevity in your family, your health is good, mom and dad live to be 95 years old or something, then if we don't have to have the money, then we may be able to delay that because then we'll benefit from that. But we don't benefit from that, of course, until after the break-even point. So that's why we're saying you have to be comfortable with your break-even date if you do decide to go ahead and start your Social Security at the same time as Medicare at 65. And then that brings us to our fifth question that's very crucial, and that's this. If married, will your spouse be filing for spousal benefits? Not will your spouse be filing for their own benefits, but are they going to be applying for spousal benefits? And so assuming that someone is eligible for spousal benefits, which basically means this: you've been married for 1 year, okay, or more, you're eligible for, depending upon full retirement age, of course, and when you file, you're eligible for up to 50% of that spouse's full retirement age benefit. Now, if I'm taking my spouse's benefit early, I'm going to have a reduction in benefit. But if I take it my own full retirement age, my benefit will be based upon my spouse's full retirement age amount. And again, I get 50% of that. All right. But one of the keys is not only just being married for a year, but now in order to get spousal benefits, the spouse you're drawing on also must also be taking Social Security. In the old days, didn't have to. They could actually file and suspend. But today, the only way you can get spousal is if your spouse is also taking. So if my benefit is $2,000 a month and my spouse doesn't have any Social Security, but if I go ahead and file, they can begin to take spousal. That could be an additional $1,000. So either we can keep growing the account or go ahead and let the spouse file because we have filed, and then that spousal benefit may be greater than you actually growing your Social Security account or amount by delaying your Social Security benefit. All right. So again, this is a big deal. Now, many spouses have their own benefits, and they're even greater possibly. But if a spouse doesn't have much, once you file, they're able to draw that benefit. All right. So you got to bring that into the equation as well. Now, I just want to show you a couple of exceptions to this I think are important, and then we'll close out the video. All right. So those are the 5 crucial questions. Now, let me kind of show those to you in summary to make sure that you know whether you should take Social Security and Medicare at the same time or not. So question number 1, of course, are you fully retired? Would you answer that question? Yes or no? Number 2, if you're still working, are your wages below that $23,400? In other words, will there be any impact to your Social Security check if you decide to take Social Security? And the answer is no, if your wages would be below that. All right, question number 3, yes or no, is your Social Security income crucial to your budget? Is it really, really critical that you have the money? Question number 4, are you comfortable with that break-even point? You know, I know we don't know when we're going to pass away, but are you comfortable knowing that if I live beyond 82 years old, am I all right realizing that it's going to be a permanent reduction in my Social Security? And then question number 5, will your spouse file for spousal benefits? And so here's my point in all this. As we look at these questions, if someone answers yes to all of these questions, then folks, to me, it's truly a no-brainer. I would go ahead and start taking my Social Security benefits at 65 as well as my Medicare benefits. Now, if you don't have a spouse that's taking, you just have one of these, that would be a yes. I still would probably go ahead and take the Social Security benefits for sure. But the point is, when I am answering yes to these questions over here, to me, it's really a no-brainer. I would take Social Security. But on the other hand, if I'm answering no to any of these questions over here, then I'd probably continue to delay until I hit that full retirement age or maybe even beyond. Because once I get to full retirement age, my primary insurance amount, I'm eligible for that. But if I wait, I actually can grow my account for the next 3 years from 67 to 70, and I grow it at 8% a year. That's actually 0.667% a month. So I can grow that a full 24%. All right. So truly, you can make that decision once you exactly answer these questions based upon your particular situation. Now, I want to clarify something. Everything I've talked about thus far has been all about should we take Medicare and Social Security at the same time. I want to show you just a quick couple exceptions to that question. And the first scenario would be this one here, and that is deciding to take your Social Security, look at this, at 65, but not Medicare. Okay? And so there are people in this situation where they're going to go ahead and get Social Security, but they're going to get Medicare. So the question is, who would wisely do this? And whose best interest would this be? And so here's who could do this. If you have an attractive, and what I mean by attractive, I mean financially attractive. You like the network, you like the copays, you're very happy and comfortable with the coverage at work. It's a large group employer plan, which means there's 20 employees on the payroll or more. It has to be 20 or more. That's considered to be a large group, and a large group, the company plan pays first. And if you did go on Medicare, Medicare would pay second. And in this example, I'm saying don't go on Medicare if you have a group of 20 or more and you have an attractive plan, meaning it's the premium is $200 a month or less. You're comfortable with the deductible, the network, and it's just a good plan. Maybe you have a spouse on the plan that's younger, or children that are on the plan that are less than 26. So if you have a very attractive plan, it may be fine to go and take Social Security as long as we're not impacted by that earnings test, but you don't have to take Medicare if you have a good group plan available of you or your spouses. Number 2, you must have Part A, meaning if I take Social Security, you have to be enrolled in Part A. But notice this, you're not required to take Part B. Again, if I have a group plan of 20 or more, that's considered credible coverage, and so you do not have to have Medicare B. We have A, why? Because we're taking Social Security. So in this scenario, what's going to happen is I don't have to take Part B. Now the problem is though, if I'm taking Social Security, I'm not automatically enrolled in a Medicare A and B. But I don't have to keep the B, again, if I have a large group plan that's attractive. And so what you'll need to do in that scenario is you want to terminate or decline taking Part B. So if you're enrolled in Social Security, you're taking your benefits, you're automatically going to be enrolled in a Medicare A and B. So what happens? I have to keep A, but I can decline Part B. And the way you do that is when that card first comes, they give you the option to opt out of Part B. Again, can't opt out of Part A. If you're on Social Security, you got to stay in it. But Part B can be delayed or opted out. And so when you get the card initially, just turn it over on the back. There's a place for you to check a box and says, I do not want medical insurance, which is I do not want Part B. Check the box, sign your name, send it back in, and they'll send you back a new card that says Medicare A only. And then you can pick up B at a later date. All right, so we can do it that way. Another way we can get rid of Part B is through a form CMS 1763. CMS 1763, and this is your opportunity to fill out a form saying you don't want Part B. You tell them when you want it to be dropped and the reason you're dropping it. Why? Because I have a group plan already. I don't need it. Send that form into your local Social Security office and the same thing will happen. They'll drop off the Part B, send you back a new card. They'll have Part A only. All right. Now, last thing I want to talk about this, and that is starting Part B. So if I decide to decline it because, again, I have a good group plan, I'm going to pick it up at a later date. And so here's the key to that. The way we come into Medicare after 65 is what's called a special enrollment period. And it's very simple. Let's say that I decide that I'm going to work to age 67 and all I have is A only. And so what happens is I have to, for special enrollment eligibility, I have to prove that I've had credible coverage through an active employer-provided plan, my own or my spouse's, it doesn't matter. I have to prove that with no gaps in coverage all the way back to 65. So as long as I've been working or my spouse was covered by a group plan, mine or theirs, and we prove that with this form. This is called an L564. L564 is the form we use to do this. We can prove that with the L564, then you can come into Medicare B, you select the date when you want to start, when the group plan ends, you start your Medicare Part B. It's seamless, very easy, no penalties, no problems. But the key is credible coverage back to 65, and that credible coverage does not include COBRA. It's got to be active employment, active employer-provided insurance, okay? And there's no problems whatsoever. So that's how we start Part B. So I think it's wise. If you have a good group plan, 20 or more, that's attractive, go ahead and don't take B, just stay enrolled in A. And again, this one we're saying we're not going to take Medicare other than maybe A only. All right, let's look at just one more exception to this question. Hey, if you come to a place where you know you're going to have to make some Medicare decisions pretty soon, the best way to do that is to click up here in this right-hand corner, and you'll have an opportunity to be able to book a call with one of our Medicare guides. All the guides around here I have personally trained, and they truly are professional. They'll answer your questions, and they'll show you different Medicare options to make sure that you're confident in the decision that you make. All right, now here's that scenario, and that's someone that decides to take Medicare A and B at 65, but not take Social Security. All right, so who would do this? Well, someone who decides they're going to take Social Security could be because they're working, they're above the earnings test. It could be because they don't need the money. And they're going to go ahead and delay and grow that account up until full retirement age or maybe even beyond that, okay? And so they're not going to take Social Security. They don't want to do that. But they need to take Medicare. And so I want to be real clear about this, because there's actually 5 groups of people that must take Medicare at 65, or you're making a mistake. So here they are, 5 of them. Number 1 is anyone who's no longer working, or their spouse is no longer working, and you have no employer plan option available. You're starting Medicare at 65. Okay, you're going to start on your birth month for sure. Okay, the second group of people are anyone that's actually covered by COBRA insurance. Right? COBRA insurance is an extension of an employer-provided plan. It could be you or your spouse's, but you're no longer working, you're now on COBRA. COBRA sometimes lasts 18 months, sometimes 12 months, sometimes 36 months, it varies. But if you have COBRA and you're Medicare eligible, you must enroll into Medicare A and B on your 65th or at your 65th birth month, so your coverage begins then, because your COBRA insurance goes to the second payer position. And so a lot of people are not aware of this. So COBRA only pays second once you're Medicare eligible. So you're required to go on to A and B at 65 if you have COBRA. If not, what happens is you become the first payer, because COBRA, again, is moving to the second payer position. And people mess this up all the time. So again, that's the second group. Third group, anyone that is retired military. You have what's called TRICARE for life. You're on TRICARE. Once you become eligible for Medicare at 65, it becomes TRICARE for life. And TRICARE for life is just like COBRA. It moves to the second payer position. You must enroll in A and B, let Medicare pay first, and TRICARE pay second. And if you don't enroll in A and B, you become the first payer, because TRICARE will only pay second. Same thing applies for anyone working for a company covered by an employer-provided plan, but there's 19 employees on the payroll or fewer. That's considered to be a small group. And so again, that small group moves to the second payer position. Medicare takes the first payer position. You must enroll in A and B. If you're covered by a small group plan, 19 employees on the payroll or less, or you become the first payer. And then lastly, anyone that's covered by an Affordable Care Act plan. You went through the healthcare exchange to get a plan. You enrolled in that plan. Could be a family plan, individual plan. But here's what happens. Most people today are incentivized financially on the ACA plans. The plan set a premium, and that premium is drastically reduced for many people through tax subsidies, through cost sharing, reduced premiums. They're really very nice financial benefits for a lot of people, not all, but many. And so what happens, though, once we are Medicare eligible on our 65th birth month, all the financial incentives of the ACA plan go away. You're not going to get a reduced premium. You're not going to get any tax subsidies. You will get no cost sharing. You'll pay the full premium, the full price. Again, no tax benefits, so the incentives are gone. So there's no reason at all to keep an ACA plan once you're Medicare eligible. And for some of you who have wonderful financial incentives, sometimes that's depressing because being on Medicare is going to cost you more than it would be on your ACA plan. But that's just the way it goes, because once you hit 65, those incentives are going to be gone. So you have to go on Medicare at 65. So that's the 5 groups, again, that are in this scenario. You do take Medicare at 65 because you have to. You must take it, but you're not taking Social Security yet. Second group would be this. There's one group of people that may want Medicare at 65. Now, notice I said may want Medicare. And this is someone that is, again, covered by an employer-provided plan of they or their spouses. It's a large group. It's got 20 or more people on the payroll, but this is a plan that's not attractive. It's expensive. The premium is high. The deductible is high. The coverage is terrible. The network's not good. In other words, they do not have a good employer-provided plan. Now, they don't have to take Medicare, but they probably should, because it's in their financial best interest to do so. And that employer has to let you go when you turn 65. It's a life-changing event. So that's why I'm saying you may want to. So what I would do, I would compare what is my Medicare option, what is my employer option, and if the Medicare option is better deductible, better premiums, better coverage, all those kind of things, then you can get off the employer plan and you can go on Medicare. All right, and so many people do that today with mediocre group plans. Now, the third scenario here, again, taking Medicare at 65 but not Social Security, would be one group that should not take Medicare at 65. And that would be anyone who has a good group plan, 20 or more people on the payroll. You don't have to do Medicare A. You don't have to do Medicare B at all. Okay, now, one caution here, and I'm going to close out, and that's this. There are some of you who have been told that you don't have to take Medicare B, but you have to take Medicare A. And so sometimes people enroll into Medicare A only. Now listen, A only is a fine decision unless you have an HSA account. Because if you go ahead and enroll into A only, you can put no new money in your HSA, your health savings account. A lot of you have those. And so what I'd rather do is do nothing and not have A at all, have nothing, A or B, and continue to contribute to my HSA. Because in this scenario here, when I have a group plan of 20 or more, what happens? My group plan pays first, Medicare pays second, okay? And so what happens in this scenario, Medicare is going to pay second, but what happens is now I can no longer put money in my HSA. So my point is, if I have an HSA option, I'd rather contribute to that and not have anything at all with Medicare. They're going to pay second anyways, and they don't pay that great in the second payer position. So do nothing A, don't do B, keep putting money in your HSA. And I promise you, as long as you have 40 quarters, 10 years worth of Medicare taxes paid into the system, which gives you premium-free Medicare A, you will never be penalized on Part A ever. I know people say differently, but they're wrong. So as long as you have 40 quarters, 10 years worth of work paid in through Medicare taxes, there's never going to be a penalty on your Part A. The only people that have to pay a penalty on Part A are those that have to buy Part A. And people do that. 1% of the Medicare population, they have less than 40 quarters. 30 to 39 quarters, $285 a month for Part A. 0 to 29 quarters, $515 for Part A. That group of people that have to buy A are the only ones that are ever penalized. So when someone says you'll be penalized, they don't know what they're talking about unless you don't have 40 quarters. Got that? Okay, so my whole point is this. I want you to know that it's all right to do A only unless you have an HSA. So if I don't have an HSA, I would enroll in A only. It takes the second payer position. It won't pay copays. It will not pay deductibles, but it may pay coinsurance. So they'll coordinate those benefits with your group plan, and Medicare can pay something on the hospital side if indeed you have A only. All right, so my whole point is this. These are people that should not take Medicare at 65 if you have an HSA. If you don't, it's fine to take A, but just don't take B if your group plan is great.